This type of film, almost like it was made with the intention of becoming art house, is a very slow burn with its concentration leaning on what is not said. Body language, colour schemes, and the music that fits a scene and then abruptly ends like a thought bubble being popped. It presents the stillness and slowness of the seasons, with a subtle inclusion of philosophy, the impression of daydreaming about that certain someone, the understanding of the lack of labels, of boundaries that inflict on each other's timings and space, and the embrace of constant change. This is 2 takes, and this is 1 shot, an analysis of Call Me By Your Name. Beautiful backdrops, whimsical musical score, and the laziness of a 1980s summer in Italy stem from what we all experienced in our youth, of summer days that drone on, with the sounds of the world going by, whilst we filled the time with things to do that weren't necessarily needed nor wanted. Spending the days exploring, eating, reading and the like, Call Me By Your Name reminds me of my summers when I was Elio's age. Adapting to situations with ease, with Elio's family dynamic being that every summer someone new comes along and Elio has to almost help play the ever-willing host. Sharing with things and even his space, his bedroom, might have made this protagonist almost attached to materialistic things. But what is more interesting is his detachment from the people around him. We find him being attentive in his affections with his family, freely expressing his love whilst passing them in a hallway, and after a nosebleed, as one example, soaking up the attention of his 2 friends when they come over to hang out. It's interesting to note that apart from Elio's father, whom somewhat like the background character until the very end, Elio is surrounded by women. From his 2 friends, his mother, and even the housekeeper. Elio has a subtle dominance, in which he projects with his presence and presentation. And when other males come into the picture, like Oliver, Elio emphasises this reluctance of participating, but all in all secretly observes the American scholar like a work of art. There are moments of misunderstanding that we get to witness in body language and the written word. However, the lack of conversation has us observing the interactions like a fly on the wall, and with that in mind, nothing can be hidden. Everything can be interpreted as something different, and perhaps, at times, like Elio, we misunderstand what is happening and assume things, following Elio's mentality until we all realise that those quick shot exchanges and physical touches do hold some meaning. The questions asked are direct, but the looks and the behaviour express so much more, and throughout the following of Elio's thoughts, we see them either constantly being together or constantly separated. 2 extreme opposites that are presented even before the moments of feeling have had a chance to play. It's almost as though it's the tipping balance on whether what happens next could potentially be, hence the constant need for change to occur to move things forward. There is this embracing of opposites within change that also comes from Heraclitus' philosophy, as it was a necessary part of existence. YouTuber Journey Through Time explains further. In Heraclitus' eyes, he urged us to see conflict not as chaos, but as an essential force that maintains the balance in the cosmos. And within the consistency of opposites, sought harmony of it. An easier physical interpretation would be the yin and yang symbol. Moments that complement this way of opposites, that collide but also are harmonious, might be in the moments of the film that have Oliver and Elio becoming more fascinated with each other. One example is when Oliver is impressed by Elio's exceptional intelligence.
Is there anything you don't know?
I know nothing, Oliver.
Whereas Elio thinks Oliver is everything he is not. The opposites are subtle, but they are there, and in the end, they are unified by their differences.
Cosmic fragments by Heraclitus.
The meaning of the river flowing is not that all things are changing so that we cannot encounter them twice, but that some things stay the same only by changing.
This quote that Oliver speaks about holds importance within the main storyline that explores Heraclitus' philosophy of eternal flux. Within the fragments of his work, other philosophers have quoted this famous "you cannot step into the same river twice" analogy to encapsulate the idea that the world is in a constant state of change. It held the belief that the universe was never a static entity, but a dynamic process, constantly changing and evolving, ourselves included. From a summer that metaphorically expresses that time is progressing even without us noticing, that changes must change because it's what life is doing all the time. Change must occur, and even in the stance of Elio's and Oliver's relationship, their love can only really stay the same by the change that is going to happen. In this case, it was the letting go, the acceptance of no more, the fear of the leap, the joy, the pain, the embrace, and the goodbye. The memories are unchangeable, unblemished, and perfect. However, it's the inevitable changes outside of these moments that define their human nature. We don't feel time escaping us. We just feel the moments as they come. For example, the discovery of statues in the sea that present a different life, a different time, a different moment. These scenes mirror each other by the discovery, the awe, and the history that is rich in its storytelling. Both Oliver and Elio's time and the statues observed and analysed both show remnants of something that was created in its time period, both frozen in place by time and memory, recaptured by all. However, the statues, the inclusion of their photographs at the beginning with the opening credits, and the scenes of them being taken from the sea both present more than you think. The sculptures themselves are from the Hellenistic era, the time of Mediterranean history after classical Greece, between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the death of Cleopatra VII in 30 BC, which introduced an androgynous aesthetic. As Picture Play blog writes, Greco-Roman culture is known for not seeing the concept of bisexuality as taboo, and the Hellenistic era continued how they saw bisexuality at the time, and it affected on how heterosexual relationships and the ideal male physical appearance was presented on their work of art. As a result, male Hellenistic sculptures became less bulky and muscular. They were also more slender, elegant, and feminized. They still retained male anatomy, but they were slimmer and smoother compared to sculptures from classic era. The sculptures, the objects of Elio's father's research, is a manifestation of intentionally presenting the unfolding of desire, sensuality, and emotions within Oliver and Elio's relationship, perhaps through the male gaze. Even in their presentation, their slim physiques of our beloved protagonists present the androgynous nature of their situation. They can both have male and female relationships, with the inclusion of Elio's female friends finding interest in either Oliver or Elio in different scenes, expressing themselves in subtle ways, and revel in the unveiling of their true selves in what seems to be a time capsule of an Italian summer.
Look, you had a beautiful friendship. Maybe more than a friendship. And I envy you.
Elio's father has a point. As the director Luca Guadagnino recognized Oliver and Elio's pact of calling each other by their own names, he says in a Q&A, "The other person makes you beautiful, enlightens you, elevates you." The beauty lies in understanding what it was that Oliver and Elio had, but also not labeling it. I will explain. Within Aristotle's views of true friendship as reciprocated goodwill, or good people being similar in virtue, by loving one another by their character. The imperfect ways of friendship, outlined as friendship in utility, meaning through gaining something from the other party, like between, say, you and your hairdresser, or friendship in pleasure, whether that's by sharing experience like Friday night basketball that makes both parties enjoy it, as one such example, is the ones that we do not want. It's not to say that these imperfect ways of friendship are bad, but rather they might even evolve into the true friendship that everyone strives for. The essence of not labeling what Oliver and Elio had emphasizes the interesting language of friendship by its ambiguity. Many interpretations of the word, such as the Middle English friend, Old French Anglo-Norman ami, as well as many more, can all refer to a friend and lover. As Conversation.com writes, one example is a scene where the mother, Anella, translates for a family a story from the Marguerite de Navarre's Heptameron about a handsome knight who lives in anguished silence until he cannot do other than ask his princess, is it better to speak or stay silent? Their relationship is described as a friendship, and both parents chime in at the German Freundschaft, laughingly acknowledging its ambiguity. And although Elio thinks he would never be brave enough to ask a question like that, it's via the discussion of the 16th century French novel that he begins to confess his feelings for Oliver. Friendship and lovers have always had a blurred line between the two, hence why Elio's father does not try to label it fully. Like within our current century, the ideals of labeling have collapsed to the point that many do not wish for a label in what they are experiencing. Oliver and Elio never say what they are, they never speak of it, instead creating a fluidity in the relationship by being in the moment. What is interesting is the rapidness of their friendship that blossoms into more. The pact of calling each other by their names is a beautiful act that represents a lasting impression. When they repeat it to each other, the names intermingle and their meaning becomes lost, and purposefully so. They have become one physically and mentally, if only for a brief moment, whispering their names like it holds secrets to their time together that they can only witness and remember fully. Like Conversation.com explains, it echoes down the intervening centuries and countless works of art and literature exploring the idea that the friend is an other self, both a means of self-discovery and an ennobling end in itself. This can explore the switching of names, the importance intermingling each to the other. They represent the other, they mirror each other, and their opposites are harmonious in their unity. When all is said and done, both Elio and Oliver knowing it has to come to an end, it is through Elio enjoying the moment that we do not see as despair in the last day, until he breaks down whilst waiting for the train to go home. The time has slowed down in the sadness, and it is here that his mother comes to get him, saying nothing as he weeps silently in the car ride home, letting him feel what he needs to feel in the comfort of their silence. And his father, his advice, that was exactly what Elio needed to hear.
We rip out so much of ourselves to be cured of things faster that we go bankrupt by the age of 30 and have less to offer each time we start with someone new. But to make yourself feel nothing so as not to feel anything, what a waste. Have I spoken out of turn? And I'll say one more thing. It'll clear the air. I may have come close, but I never had what you two have. Something always held me back, or stood in the way. How you live your life is your business. Just remember, our hearts and our bodies are given to us only once. And before you know it, your heart's worn out. And as for your body, there comes a point when no one looks at it, much less wants to come near it. Right now, there's sorrow, pain. Don't kill it. And with it, the joy you felt.
Perhaps understanding Elio's pain in so many more ways than one, his father reflects on his son's actions because he might have done that in the past. Also, this shows he was observing his son throughout, taking a subtle back seat until he had to come forward to help Elio express himself. He is his father's son, and we see their love through their respect of how they live their lives, knowing that both are around if needs be. Elio is given the space to express himself, and even though we saw this in many points of the film, especially with the little things such as eventually wearing the Star of David necklace to fully express his religion like Oliver, Elio might have needed that talk to take away the doubts of being able to be himself, and have the time and courage to explore it all in the comfort of his family's embrace. We knew from the beginning, with all the information given to us, that Oliver and Elio's relationship could not last. They knew it, Elio's parents knew it, and the Hellenistic sculptures as well as the subtle philosophy present this saddening conclusion. But what this is really all about is the growth of oneself through their first love. We first find Elio detached, devoid of fully expressing himself, and in the end, we find him, his face close to the fire, feeling the physical burn of the flames, whilst he quietly cries and somewhat smiles to himself. As Heraclitus has shown his philosophy of eternal change, the final scene presents fire, a metaphor to represent the ever-changing nature of the universe. Not the physicality of fire itself, much like how the last scene only shows the fire in the shadows of Elio's face. Heraclitus saw fire as a symbol of transformation, destruction, and renewal. It is here that we see it. We see the emotions past Elio's face, engulfed in the metaphorical meaning of the fire, and then the subtle smiles and frowns that hold his father's words to be true. Don't waste it. Embrace everything. His father was right. To feel what he had, even the worst of it, is better than not feeling at all. And when Elio looks at us, the audience, for a brief second, it can only be for so many reasons. And the one that I feel that holds true is to make us be in the moment even longer. Elio does not let us cut away from the feeling, holding us there with his gaze until he's ready to move on himself. He looks at us, and then at his mother when she calls for him, and even then, we can still feel the connection of Elio with Oliver based on his name. Call me by your name, your namesake, is what Elio will remember, with one word, Oliver, and now his own, Elio, connecting the experience he had with him forever. Time might help the pain to slowly ebb away, but the scars of that time will forever be etched in his mind. The important aspect is that this kind of love was a chance taken, even with all the pain and the change that came with it. They both stepped into their desire, the river, fully knowing that it will never be the same again. What are your thoughts on what was discussed in this episode? Comment and let me know to open up a conversation. Like and subscribe for more content of this nature, and come talk to me on Twitter or Instagram. Better yet, support the show on my Patreon to help a creator such as myself with learning on the go. Each like, each comment, each subscriber fuels the motivation I need to make better and better content for yours truly. Come say hi, and thanks for watching.